Welcome to another Yorkton story, our look at Yorkton's past and present. My name is Dick DeWright. Our podcasts are available on our website, yorktonstories.ca, where you will also find photos, links, and other information associated with each podcast topic when available. In many cases, you can not only hear the stories, you can also see and read about the podcast topics. We can also be found on all major podcast directories. Search for Yorkton Stories, and you will find us. This podcast is presented by Harvest Meats and Grain Millers, both here in Yorkton. We appreciate their support from the very early days of this podcast and that of others who have encouraged and supported us in our efforts to preserve slices of Yorkton history. When Linda Cymbalisty graduated from the high school in Kenora, Saskatchewan, in the spring of 1968, she did what many young people from smaller towns do: move to the big city to further their education or to find work. In Linda's case, it was first a year at the University of Winnipeg, then a move to the University of Manitoba, enrolled in the arts with a major in psychology. That fall of 1968, she met a young man from Grandview, Manitoba, Joe Skomorowski, who had also moved to Winnipeg. 2 years later, they were married. Joe was an apprentice plumber. Linda, at various times since graduating high school, had been a dental assistant and a bank employee, as well as a university student. Linda and Joe decided what they really wanted after a few years in Winnipeg was to move back to a smaller town, set up their own plumbing business, and return to their rural roots. Part of that plan was a decision by Linda that she would quit university and become a plumber herself. As it turned out, that was easier said than done. Much, much easier said than done. She was far ahead of her time and ran into major roadblocks with educators and even with the plumbers union. A woman plumber? No, that will never work. But she was not a quitter. She knew what she wanted and did not give up. It was not easy, to put it mildly, but she did complete the courses she needed to become a plumber apprentice, and in 1974, she was invited to be a VIP guest of the Canadian Environmental Exposition in Toronto. There she was crowned the first lady plumber in Canada, received a plaque and mementos, and appeared on the Betty Kennedy and Elwood Glover radio and television shows. Both of those were big names in Canadian broadcasting and CBC, Kennedy from the 60s and well into the 1990s, Glover from the 1950s and into the early 80s. She and Joe's plans came together. After 3.5 years of Linda working as a plumber in Brandon and Joe having finished his apprenticeship, they came back to Saskatchewan and started Joe Lynn Plumbing in Norquay. They operated that business together for 30 years, selling it in 2005. Joe stuck mainly to plumbing, but Linda took it upon herself to get involved with government and conferences and schools to promote the acceptance in the trades of underrepresented or unrepresented groups, not just women, but also Indigenous people, immigrants, and those with disabilities. And she was active in promoting apprenticeship and working in the trades as a viable and well-paid career path. She spent the last 10 years before retirement as a certification consultant with the provincial government's Saskatchewan Apprenticeship and Trade Certification Commission. After living 19 years in Norquay and 28 years at Crystal Lake, she and Joe now make their home in Yorkton. We spoke with Linda about what it took to even get a chance to become a plumber back in the 1970s, dealing with roadblocks and skepticism. And we talked about her subsequent work to promote the trades and apprenticeship when the education system was bent on promoting a university education as the best option for high school graduates. But first, she wanted to explain that honor she received in 1974 as the first lady plumber in Canada.
There were women in the trades. Just to clarify, I don't consider myself Canada's first lady plumber because there were plumbers out there. First qualified, I had my red seal, which is anywhere in Canada. There were other gals working. They were working with their husbands. They were working with their dads, or they were helpers. This is for the red seal.
This is for the top qualification.
Yes.
What is the red seal designation? The federal government works with provinces and territories, as well as the trades industry, to develop standards and exams for the trades. Those who pass the exams receive a red seal endorsement, which is proof that a tradesperson has met the national standard in their trade and can work anywhere in Canada. It wasn't an easy path.
No, it wasn't.
There was a reluctance on the part of even educators to let you take the courses that you needed to become a plumber. What was the prevailing attitude? Were they adamantly opposed, or were it just that you were so new, they didn't know what to do with you?
They were adamantly opposed. It was really tough. Even Union Hall told me that they'd never accept me in Winnipeg. I approached so many people trying to get into the course, and everything was negative. Everything from being a female to being incapable of doing a man's job, physical, mentally, etc. It just continued on and on. Yes.
What did it take for you to persevere? You must have been determined.
The more they told me I couldn't do it, the more I fought to do it. I believed I could do it. I knew I could do it. And I just had to persevere how I am.
You had reasons to want to do it because you and Joe had got married a few years previously, and he was just finishing up his plumber's apprenticeship.
He was still in his apprenticeship at the time. He hadn't finished, but we both are country people. Both from rural areas, and we were in the big city, and we decided we wanted to go back to rural. And we decided one day we want to start our own business. We had a big discussion over this, and I thought, well, this is one way I could help out, and it would be great to be a partner.
You were from Kenora. He was from Grandview, Manitoba. Where did you meet?
We met while I was going to university. We met in Winnipeg, and we met at a place called the German Club. I was there with some friends. He was there with some friends, and we got to know each other.
A couple of years later, you were married.
Exactly, yes.
Skomorowski is Ukrainian or East European background?
It's Ukrainian, yeah.
You were Cymbalisty?
Yes.
So that's Ukrainian?
Yes, we're definitely Ukrainian.
So the kubasa and the pierogies were familiar to both of you?
And the cabbage rolls, yes.
And the cabbage rolls, yeah. What was Joe's attitude towards the problems that you were running into, even trying to get into his school?
I think he was concerned, and I think he was worried. He was very good at supporting me, but I knew that he was concerned and worried. He didn't come out and say that, but I know Joe, so yes.
And obviously you had decided between the two of you that this is something you wanted to do for the family and together and start a business.
Exactly. Yes, we were thinking about our future and thinking about living back rural, which we both really wanted to do. City life wasn't really for us.
You applied to or talked to Red River College.
Yes, I did.
About getting into their plumbing course. You also talked to the people at Manpower.
Yes.
Canada Manpower, as it was known then.
Yes. Red River was kind of neutral at the point because they didn't sponsor any of the seats. Back then, Manpower paid for all the seats to get into apprenticeship. So I had to get the okay through Manpower. When I went into Manpower to talk to someone about this, I got counselors there to see that were to do with office work, anything that at the time females were into. I couldn't get in to see anybody that was in the plumbing section or in the construction department at all to talk to. They told me that I would have to find somebody that would hire me. I said, well, eventually I'm going to be working with my husband. They came out and said, what would you do if your husband died tomorrow? And I said, I would keep on plumbing. Well, then it means I have to go and find someone who would employ me. So I think I went up to 16 companies, and I kept a few of the supporting letters saying that they would hire me if I was qualified. The majority of them were in agreement. All they cared about was for qualifications. So I came back with these letters, and I still I still ran into difficulties, but they finally let me see someone in the plumbing or in the construction department as a counselor with manpower. And talking to them, it was just like butting my head against a wall. They said, you won't be able to, you're incapable, you won't. I got a letter from my doctor because they specified that they needed a medical, saying that I was physically fit and that if I was smart enough to go to university, I should have the qualifications, and that women lift 50-pound toddlers. And back then, and I think it still is, that the maximum weight for one person is 50 pounds. That was not the holdup, but they found a doctor who used to be a plumber for me to see. Eventually, I think it was in June or July, I had made an appointment to see this particular doctor. And then when I went in for an appointment, he was in the rehabilitation center, and that was the end of that. I could not see him anymore. He was not well. So at that point where they said, it's too bad, so sad almost, Human Rights Commission had heard about me, and it was suggested that I approach them as well. And they did, and they took on my case.
Would men have run into the same thing as needing a doctor's letter to say that they were qualified to do this kind of work?
Absolutely not. Neither did they have to go from business to business to see who'd hire them either. Absolutely not.
So it was strictly because you're a woman?
Yes.
Human rights, what did they say?
Oh, they felt I had a good case. So they took over and they got them to accept me. However, I was put on a wait list.
This was at Red River College?
Red River College.
Yeah.
But Red River College didn't put me, they have seats, there, but Manpower sponsors them. So I was willing to pay my own way the whole time, by the way. I told everybody I'd pay my own way. I don't care about Manpower, but that didn't make a difference. So they put me on a wait list, but that wait list, they said, could be a year, but I found out that wait list was about 7 years long. I inquired at Brandon, and Brandon had heard about me already. The college had already heard about me. And the instructor didn't really know what to do with me, but they accepted me. I was the only female paying my own way there.
That was Assiniboine Community College in Brandon.
All the men were sponsored. I paid my own way.
Yeah.
And the instructor was very good. He was very protective. He was very careful. He was, I think, very nervous. Very, very nice person when I went to college there.
You have a letter from Red River College where they said eventually they'd let you in, but they were concerned about how you would dress while you were in class. The wording, I think, is, it goes without saying that the clothing should be such as to cause the least amount of disturbance among the classmates all being male.
Yes. I don't know what they were thinking. I guess back then...
It's not as if you're going to show up in the shop in a miniskirt, right?
No,
and
exactly.
distract all the guys.
Exactly.
This is what they were thinking.
This is what they were thinking. I think they thought maybe I wasn't serious. Maybe they thought I was just... I don't know what they were thinking back then. Maybe they thought I just wanted to be with a bunch of guys. I don't know, but I was definitely serious.
You were serious, you were married, and you wanted
That's right.
a career.
Exactly.
That's a little bizarre. So Human Rights took up your case. You did get admitted in Brandon. You finished the course.
Yes.
And you did very well.
Yes. I got 3 top awards. I got top for drafting, top for marks, and top in the construction department. Yes. When I went to college there, some of the gals in the other classes, because it's a college, they have stenographers, they have accountants, they take all kind of classes there. Quite a few of the gals when I was going to college there gave me a really, really bad time. They were rough on me.
Why?
Because I'm in an all guys class, and I think they thought that I was one of those kind of people but I was married. Maybe they didn't know my background. I was serious. I was studying really hard. And when it came to graduation, they were at the graduation too. It's a big college. So most of them, the majority of them came up and apologized to me after. They said, "You were really sorry. We didn't realize." So I don't know what the attitude was even amongst some of the gals back then.
They thought you were husband hunting.
I guess so, but that's the last thing from my mind. Sure, I got a little bit of rough treatment from some of the guys in the comment, but you've got to be able to handle them. You've got to be able to laugh it off. You can't be serious. And I mean, once they knew that I was serious, everybody was good. I had no problems. Yeah. It's just at the beginning, you get tested,
So then you went to work.
Yes.
Because Joe was still an apprentice.
Yes.
And had to finish before you guys could think about setting up your own business.
Yes.
And you worked in Brandon.
I worked for a company called Bar Repka, who are now they go by a different name now. They were a unionized company. I was plumbing there. We were doing water lines and stuff. I was by myself on a ladder in a basement that had no stairs to go down, so I had fun getting down there. But anyhow, they got down there, they brought a ladder, and they were standing and watching me work, and I felt so uncomfortable just watching me. And I'm doing this, and they're just watching me. So that was the first, but after a while, they got used to it. I guess maybe even they weren't sure. It was so new to everybody.
You set up your own shop after Joe got his papers.
Yes.
And you moved to Norquay.
Yes, we did.
Why Norquay?
We were looking to start at Moosemint. My parents lived in Kenora, and they saw an ad in the paper. Norquay's looking for a plumber.
There was no plumbing shop?
Yeah, there was, but they left. Yeah. I thought, I know the area, and we came to look at Norquay. And at that time, Mr. Richford, we call him Mr. Hudson Bay, he got a hold of us, and he took us all over town, took us to meet the bank manager, found a shop for us, found a place for us to rent. Meanwhile, he was just so nice. And, he was instrumental in us staying in Norquay.
Yeah, I remember him because when I was in the newspaper, he was pretty much the guy pushing for the Port of Churchill.
Wonderful man, Willis. Yeah. Wonderful man, yes. We were in Norquay till 2005, and we expanded to another.
Expanded to Priestville.
Till 2005, yeah.
And then sold to one of your apprentices.
Yes, we did. To Chris Danielson, yes.
Is he still running it?
He's still running it in Priestville.
Yes.
He's doing very well.
At some point, you got involved in the whole business of government dealing with apprenticeships.
Yes.
How did that come about?
Involved in a lot of different boards prior to that with apprenticeship and representing apprenticeship in different areas.
But still as a representative of the industry, of the business.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because I was on all these boards and because I was representing apprenticeship, I became very interested in working with apprenticeship. After so many years in the plumbing business, I wanted to do something different that was still involving the trade. And of course, when I was involved with apprenticeship, it was 47, 48 trades I was involved with at the time. But I mean, I found it interesting, yes. So I was hired as a consultant with Sask Apprenticeship.
What was the mindset of government as far as women in the trades, that type of thing? Because, I mean, even in the 80s, that was not all that common.
No.
Were they interested in expanding that?
They were, yes. They were trying to, There weren't that many women at that time interested, to be honest with you, at that time. So there were other minorities like Aboriginal or people from other countries, also in that category. But there were not that many women back then interested in actually apprenticeship.
You gave speeches, you did workshops. It seems like you did an awful lot of talking to other people.
I did. I went to schools talking to students where they'd have career days, or I'd be invited specifically to school to talk about apprenticeship, to try and get gals interested. Unfortunately, and it still might be the case today, but back then it was all university. Trades. If you want to be a tradesperson, that's if you can't do university, which is really not true. Really not true. Gals were still being pushed to university. People were still being pushed to university. So I did a comparison, apprenticeship versus college, just to let people know more or less that, say you apprentice for 4 years, you start out, you're making right now it might be close to $30 an hour, but you're paying when you first go to your first year of college, maybe between $25,000 to $30,000 a year. The second year, when you're an apprenticeship, you've done your year already, you're making maybe $45,000 to $61,000 a year. When you're in college, the second year, you're in debt $22,500 to $35,000, so forth and so forth. By the end of your 4 years, you've got no expenses. You've already made earnings of over $300,000. 4 years experience in the industry. When you get out of university, you've got maybe $120,000, $125,000 owing, or maybe more. You work and earn money and earn while you learn and go to school. You do your classes every year.
You tell kids that. What do they tell you? What do they say?
Well, they're interested. Yeah. It perks them up, but it's hard to convince teaching staff. It probably is different now because this is a while back. Hopefully it's different now.
Well, I tell a story. I've told this for years. It's a joke about a doctor who was having some trouble with his plumbing at home. Called a plumber. The plumber said, well, I'm booked up for the next 2 or 3 months. I'll come see you if it's not critical. Well, no, I can wait. The plumber goes to the doctor's house and fixes the problem and hands him the bill, and the doctor looks at it and says, holy smoke, he says, you make more money than a doctor. And the plumber said, I know, I used to be a doctor.
Yep. No.
The trades are often thought of as kind of a second-class job.
Unfortunately.
Yeah. Is that changing? Do you know? Did it change while you were involved in that?
And they still push university. But I think more people realize, for sure, the compulsory trades, there's 4 or 5 compulsory trades that really do really well. If construction ever does go ahead with all the housing they're talking about, that'll be a bit of a boom as well.
Even if the construction boom comes about, they're not sure they're going to have the people to be able to build the houses.
Exactly, yeah.
And that would be, carpenters and plumbers and electricians and all of them.
So forth,
yeah. You've got kids.
Yes.
You have grandkids?
One is 19.
And what does the grandkid do? Have you talked to the grandkid about the trades?
He's apprenticing.
He's
plumbing.
Following in the footsteps. And I'm guessing that Grandma and Grandpa are pretty proud of that.
We are, yes.
What will it take, in your opinion, in order for the trades to be recognized as an essential part of the economy?
They're pushing more trades now. I see even on television, some of the commercials are pushing for more trades now. So I think they're coming to realize how important they are. You need your complete grade 12 to go to any of the trades. Your maths and sciences are very important. Maths and sciences, especially compulsory trades, plumbing, electrical, industrial, mechanics, all these, you need your maths and your sciences.
I would have never made it, personally.
They say that if you go to university, you come up with broad knowledge, more of a chance for different careers. But where are those careers? You can't find these careers. However, even if you took electrical or plumbing, you can branch out into so many different areas with that. And it gives you credit towards so many other trades as well. So you're not limited.
Did you have apprentices?
We have quite a few apprentices.
Local kids?
Yes, local kids. Some of them are in their own business. Some of them are working for Sask Energy. Some of them are working in the health system, but as a maintenance. They're all over. Most of them came to us for employment. We didn't seek them. Yeah. We didn't have to.
But unemployment is not something that they would have to worry about if they're qualified in a trade.
No, you're earning and learning. So when they go to school, it'd be 4 weeks or 6 weeks at a time, depending what their trade is. A lot of the employers pay for that anyhow. Yeah. And then if you're living away from the college, you get so much training allowance. So, I mean, it's a win-win. It's just a win-win. Yeah.
Our conversation concentrated on the apprenticeship issues and her personal quest to become a plumber. But there have been many other endeavors Linda has been involved in over the years. She did finish that Bachelor of Arts degree in later years, taking remote classes. She also completed the first year of government administration at the University of Regina while working with Joe in their plumbing business. She was not only a Red Seal journeyman plumber. Journeyman is what's on her certificate. She hasn't bothered to get that changed. She was also a commercial Class A gas fitter, had a water system operator certificate, was a notary public, and held a fireman's certificate. Her Red Seal plumbing status is permanent. Her commercial gas fitter ticket is still current. She still has her water treatment certification, but she let lapse her fireman's certificate and is no longer a notary public. She was named to the Provincial Apprenticeship Equity Plan Steering Committee in 1988, an effort to increase participation in apprenticeship training by underrepresented groups. In the 1980s and 1990s, she was a facilitator, speaker, and participant in conferences, meetings, advisory committees, and symposiums representing both the provincial and federal governments. She represented the Saskatchewan apprenticeship branch at meetings in Edmonton, where the provinces worked together to develop national examinations for the Red Seal designation. She is a former chair of the Plumber Trade Advisory Board and served on the Plumber Curriculum Examination Board. She also served on the board of the former Good Spirit Regional Economic Development Authority and was on the Norquay Town Council for 11 years before moving to Crystal Lake. I asked her, 52 years after becoming the first fully qualified female plumber in Canada, if she's now fully retired. Her answer? Well, once in a while I'll give advice. Otherwise, I am retired! Exclamation point. Watch for and listen to another podcast next month. Visit yorktonstories.ca to hear this and all previous podcasts, and there you can also sign up to our email list so we can let you know when a new episode is available. Our thanks again to our presenting sponsors, Harvest Meats and Grain Millers, and our supporting sponsors. They are Mycar Group of Companies, that's Mycar Aerial, Good Spirit Air Service, and Flin Flon Aircraft Maintenance. Baker Tilly in Yorkton and Saskatoon, providing tax advisory and assurance services. Optometrists Drs. Popick and Keynes and Associates in Yorkton. Haas Nissan, providing vehicle sales and service on East Broadway. And former Yorkton resident, with roots going back to the very first settlers in the area, Nancy Morrison of Vancouver. Thank you for listening. Your comments and suggestions are always welcome. Get in touch through our website or by emailing Dick, D-I-C-K, at yorktonstories.ca. Join us again next month for more Yorkton Stories.